With a heavy heart, the 2XKO play team shares an update about the future. Active development will end in December. The final content patch goes live in October. Server stays online, and in-game purchases made before August 20th will be refunded. 2XKO is basically dead. Rip 2XKO. This isn't even clickbait. You read the article, it basically says the same thing. We're getting 2 more DLC characters. We're getting a little bit extra content. But after that, development is finished by the end of the year. But on the bright side, I got a viral tweet. So everything's okay. You see, I actually did quit my job to play this game. If you guys know, about a year ago, I quit my job to play 2XKO. Obviously, there's some other factors, you know, other games like Marvel took on Avatar, just general content that I was pursuing along with other revenue streams. Hopefully, Riot gives me a refund. I'm still waiting on that. One of the nice things about this is that I bought some cosmetics, so I'll get refunded. In fact, I'll get about $140 back that I spent on 2XKO, which is pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. And in all seriousness, I mean, I'm disappointed, right? Like, I invested a large amount of time into this game. I love 2XKO, but they undeniably fucked up. And I want to talk about just the kind of my general impressions and why I'm actually like kind of sad, because I really like this game and I thought it had a lot of potential. So just like any other content creator, I made a list. And I figured we could kind of go through that now. Talking about why I like 2XKO and more specifically where it fucked up. There's not really much else news to talk. The game's just, it's just, there's not gonna be a competitive scene. There's not gonna be a competitive tour. Most people will likely not play the game. I read through the article. There is an article here, but I mean, they basically say that the game is not being developed because they're not making enough money, right? Like in the grand scheme of things, that's pretty obvious. I'm estimating that they need an exponential amount of people to play the game. If I had to guess like how many people are actually playing, it probably looks something like Street Fighter or Guilty Gear, right? In terms of like a chart. For example, all right, so if I pull up a chart, this is the Street Fighter 6 Steam charts, right? You can see it remains relatively flat, even though there's like spikes for DLCs. They're not like, they're maybe growing a little bit, but they're not growing exponentially. And my understanding from the Riot article reading into that is they wanted to see this trend upwards. Even you could say this is like pretty flat. The fact that fighting games remaining flat or honestly like a little bit high is really, really good for a fighting game. Riot expected it to go like this. And instead, it's remained flat. The other reason they said this game failed was interesting. Like, you thought they would like mention marketing and stuff. They mentioned that a lot of people tried the game, but then immediately bounced off of it, right? So, which suggests it's like some type of onboarding issue. I think there's a lot more to it, and let's talk about it. So why do I actually care about this game? Why did I think this game 3 years ago, 4 years ago, in fact, actually back in like 2019 when they first announced it, why did I think this game was going to be the GOAT? Well, I really believed in Riot's monetization strategy. I think free-to-play is the correct model for a fighting game if it's made properly and it releases at the right time. And free to play works for other genres, right? It works for League of Legends, it works for Valorant, it works for Fortnite, it works for, I don't know, every single AAA esports title there is. I was just watching the International, Dota 2. Dota 2 is free to play. So to me, I don't think free to play model is actually flawed for fighting games. I think 2XKO is just flawed. I'm gonna be honest. I think 2XKO is just flawed. We'll talk about that. So I really believed in the model, but even besides the model that they kind of screwed up, 2XKO had a lot of things going for it. Duos is easily the most fun I've had while playing a fighting game. One of my, I think this will be still like to the day I die, one of my favorite tournament memories was me and K7 pulling up to Michigan, Midwest Mix Fest in Minnesota, and we were a duo against like everyone there, strategized beforehand, and then we got to actually test out the strategies of match, and then like in the hotel room together trying to come up with strategies together for the next day, and then we actually have to execute it together and like do teamwork while we're actually doing that. I think that's a peak experience. I'll never get to experience something like that in a fighting game again, right? This game also had the best netcode by far. It's not even close. As evidence of this, you could literally play at myself. I'm on the East Coast of America. I could play in European events and no one would complain. This netcode was so good. It was amazing. It was like literal black magic. I don't understand how they did it. I mean, I do understand, but like no other game came close to replicating it. and it's extremely, extremely good. One of the reasons why this game, for me, it's like, you know, I'm playing Marvel Tokon right now. I wish Marvel Tokon had the netcode 2xQ. It's just that good. This game's free to play. Obviously, free to play means you can get a lot more people interested in the game, trying the game. That's great. The cosmetics are amazing. I mean, they even busted out the Pool Party Ari skin. And if the Pool Party Ari skin's not gonna do it for you, you know your game is cooked. Street Fighter 6 has taken 4 years to release like more than 3 costumes for a character. Like, come on, bro. Like 2xQ is blowing them out of the water there. The gameplay is great. It feels like the thing that I really like about it is it feels like there's infinite depth of stuff you can lap. It also has a really great parry. I like how you parry a lot of things on reaction, and it's very skillful, and it's very knowledge heavy and skillful, and it rewards like good reactions and good game sense. I just like that. And it felt responsive, and I felt like there's multiple ways to win. The esports program was great, and they also had a PvE mode they just tacked on, but it was probably the most fun PvE fighting game experience I've ever had. All right, this list is a lot longer. All right, here's where I think this game fucked up. The number one thing is this game just released way too late. While this game had the best netcode, it's honestly not that much worse than a game like Guilty Gear Strive or a game like Street Fighter 6. I mean, yeah, sure, I can't play against other countries, but like Street Fighter 6 netcode's honestly quite good. If it released before Street Fighter 6, if it released before Guilty Gear Strive, which is completely feasible because this game had 10 years of development, I think it would have blown every other fighting game out of the water, and it would have been more sustainable, and it would have attracted more people because people saw that there's a lot of interest in it, right? I think this, again, I don't fully understand dev cycles, but it seemed like there was a lot of money spent on development. Again, the team was 160 people, and they somehow only released 11 characters on launch, which if you do the math, which I did earlier, I'm estimating it cost about $10 billion per character. I mean, obviously not every person was dedicated to making each character, but yeah, I don't know what was going on, man. Like, like it feels like if you're throwing that much money at a game, again, you're paying SoCal, LA salaries for developers, so you're paying the big bucks compared to some of these other countries, like Marvel Tokon. You know, you have to pay people in Japan, which yen is weak. It's going to be a lot more affordable. It didn't feel like you're getting that much for your salary, right? And only having 11 characters on launch was, even though the characters are cool and there's a lot you could do with them, it just felt really limiting. And even when you like watch tournaments, especially on launch, you kept seeing the same characters, right? The launch was terrible, just in general. Like, I know Avatar and Tokon, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is about fighting games. Like, Street Fighter 6 launch was great, but Avatar and Tokon both stumbled. Avatar didn't launch with Spectator, didn't launch with Ranked. They obviously got... My main characters, B and Bs in Avatar, don't work. Still. And it's been like a month since it launched. And Tokon, you know, the PC port's trash. 2xQ did more than stumble. I think the main issue was, yeah, it didn't come to console right away, whatever, right? So only PC players could play. I think, especially for fighting games, and fighting games, again, are played offline on PS5, I think it's important to launch both at the same time. I don't think that's the biggest deal. When it came to console, it literally didn't work. A lot of people downloaded it for like, oh, new free-to-play game in the PlayStation Store. Let me play it. I download it, and it literally just didn't work. There was like a bunch of different launches. So there was like the console launch. There was the launch and the official season 0 launch, season 1 launch, console launch. I don't know. It was really confusing. I feel like the game launched like 3 times. Didn't really help the game. And then I think the gameplay is actually revealed too early. So like I think people just got sick of them teasing 2xQ for too long. Again, this came down to the extended dev cycle, but most games you see the gameplay like a year in advance. So Marvel Tokon, like first time I got to try the game was July of last year, and the game released August of this year, right? I think I got to try 2xQ like 2.5 years before the game actually came out, which is like insanity. Maybe it was 3.5, I don't know. It was just too long. I think people got sick of like waiting for it. And then I think it's also the worst name for a fighting game I've ever heard. Like when I was leaving my job, of course, like people would be like, hey, what are you leaving your job for? And you know, one of the things I'd say is I'm leaving to play a game called 2xQ, and they'd be like, what is that? And I'd be like, oh, you know League of Legends? They're making a fighting game about that. And they'd be like, oh yeah, League of Legends. Marvel Tokon is very obvious what the game is about. Avatar Legends of Fighting Games is very obvious what the game is about. I don't understand how you have one of the biggest IPs. You don't incorporate the IP into the name. I even think Dicko is a better name because at least it's meme worthy and it has DC in the name. And it's also the same name as a comic. I'm dead serious. I think Dicko's a better name than 2X. And I mean, obviously the bar is pretty low, but like, bro, come on. Yeah, hop on some Dicko. It did make sense to me that like duos was the most fun thing to do in this game. And there was like no push whatsoever. You look at a tournament, 95% of people, literally you could count the competitive duos on one hand. No one played duos. People didn't do rank in duos. There's no like specific rank mode. There was just no push on duos, even though duos is easily the most fun way to play this game. I would have loved to play duos, except even Sonic Fox and Inzem, the #1 duo in the world, said that playing duos is like playing on hard mode. I'll say it's competitively viable, but it was exactly that. It's hard mode, and most people didn't want to do it on top of like everything else that made the game hard, right? Worst balance of any game I've played on launch. Way worse than Tokon, way worse than Avatar Legends. Literally, Echo and Yas. Echo got nerfed like 20 times at this point, and he's still top 5. Like, he was a little triple S tier, same with Yasuo, triple S tier characters. I think the big thing I've heard, I couldn't really put this into words. A lot of like people I would try to get interested or like stream chatters and stuff, they would say this game was hard to onboard. Like they found it too confusing. I'm not sure what exactly you do. Maybe this game was meant to be a 1v1 game like Rising Thunder was. I'm not sure. But a lot of people just thought this game was too confusing and it's too hard to like, they would play the game and they bounce off, right? And even Riot said that like they get people to try the game and they just won't stick with it. And I think part of that is it was just a really hard game to learn. Maybe 1v1 would help. Maybe there's some other things that they could do. I personally have heard this from a couple people is that like I'd recommend Juggernaut or Sidekick, and then they tried Juggernaut or Sidekick in ranked and then they're fighting a 2v1, right? And it just didn't feel fair. I get that, right? I'm not really sure what you could do better there, but there probably is something. For example, in Deadlock, if I'm onboarding the Deadlock, I have the option to choose, like after I do the tutorial and stuff, I have the option to choose go into a regular match, or I can play this like stripped down easy version of Deadlock where everyone's just mid and doing like throwing spells and shit at each other and shooting each other, right? And so I chose the easy version because that seemed like more fun, and it was more fun. Right? Maybe Riot could have done something like that. Yeah, Street Brawl is what I was looking for. I'm gonna be honest, I have not been more frustrated with balancing team. Would prefer Street Fighter 6 patches that did absolutely nothing. The combo routes constantly change, especially towards the beginning of the game. They nerfed way too many things and took a lot of the fun out of the game. And they didn't add enough cool things. There's nothing wrong with nerfing, but I would estimate the patches were 80 to 90% nerfs and 10 to 20% buffs, where I realistically think it should be like a 60%, 40% split between buffs and nerfs, or like 50-50, right? So some of the nerfs that I like the least were in general movement nerfs, or like nerfs to utility and tools to make characters like more one-dimensional. I think characters having multiple different ways you could play them is always a benefit. And you can always reduce things like HP or damage to keep the number of tools that people have, but limit their strength, right? And I felt like they're too focused on nerfing like the fun things, right? Balance patches were too frequent. I actually thought a 5-week patch cycle was a good idea, and that's what 2XGO committed to. The issue is, and 2XGO, the dev team says themselves, is that it takes them too long to get a patch out. So it takes them like 10 weeks or 15 weeks to get a patch out, which means if they're patching the game, it's on a delayed cycle. So like, for example, if everyone's being like, this Ari champ is super OP, it takes the devs like 15 weeks so there's gonna be a couple of patches where they don't address Ari until you get to the patch where like the devs finally caught up to what the community and what the results are saying, which is really bad. I still think the best way to do a patch cycle, especially if it's delayed, is like you wait till like the big major. I mean, they had 5 big majors, right? You wait till that big major, and then right after that major, you however much lead time you need, you balance based on like those results and like everything else leading up to that. And then you give people time to train for the next like big event, right? Here they would like release patches like week or 2 weeks before majors. I didn't really get that either. And then they constantly change direction. Yeah, this was frustrating. I don't know why. Like, I feel like they had a vision and they didn't believe in it. So one example, I was actually really excited for this. They said that like they were gonna shorten the combo routes because I thought combos, you were just too inactionable for too long in this game. And I thought shorter combo routes would have actually been to the benefit. Or you make my actual preferred solution would have been keep the long combos, but make them a lot more situational. So you can only go for them like if you had like all the resources in the world and not like every single hit, right? But then the devs backtracked and now combos are they're the longest they've ever been. And the reason is that they reduced burst gain for freestyle, which means that you're less likely to burst out of combos and people are just better at making long combos. And they had this change where they made it so you get a lot of burst during a long combo and they reverted that. Or I think they made it a lot worse. So in general, combo length is the longest it's ever been. I think for new players, even for like spectators, I think it can kind of get a little tedious. This is the most buggy fighting game that ever exists. Bro, I don't understand how they keep patching the game and then new allowing tentacle bugs happen like every patch. It makes literally no sense to me. There is many game-breaking defining bugs that you had to play around with. Now it's a little bit better, but it took them many, many months to fix every single bug. Compared to most fighting games where, I mean, Tokon, I can't think of one game-defining bug that exists. Maybe the crossover counter is not making any sense, but that's not even a bug, right? Like that's just, they just don't make sense. Like how sometimes you can get deflect. I mean, how sometimes you can get disassembled and sometimes you can't. I mean, other games do have bugs, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, spectator bugs, for example. The PC port, I mean, even Tokon has a spectator bug, but like, it's just not nearly the same amount as 2X. The monetization model, I didn't think it was that bad, but it was still pretty bad. They had a rotating shop, but like, there's never anything in the shop, so if you wanted a skin, you had to wait way too long to get it. Yeah, Broski said the best. It wasn't FOMO. Model was just no. You just literally couldn't buy the skins you wanted. It made no sense to me. I think they could have done better marketing, to be honest. I think they did have some good marketing stuff, to be fair. Like, there were ads. There were Twitch ads. There was, like, in-browser marketing. Why would a League player try this game out? There really wasn't incentive for people to do that, right? To offer a free League skin if you play 2xKO for 1 hour. I don't fucking know, right? But they didn't do any of that shit. The game, like, tournaments kind of were like a slog. I think from a spectator standpoint, it wasn't like the most fun game to watch unless you were like extremely sweaty and interested. I was extremely sweaty and interested in the game, so I did enjoy watching 2xKO. I think from a spectator standpoint, the games took forever. Yeah, the games felt like they dragged on for too long. The comebacks were really hard. And even like when the comebacks were easier when Fury was buffed, like they just kind of felt scrubby, right? Like they kind of felt like artificially forced. The fact that the game has 2 health bars and 2 rounds, it just made the games feel really, really long. And tournaments took forever for this game. Plus the long timeouts. And like even watching CEO, the game is favoring timeouts way too much. I think there was like so many timeouts in like top 8 of CEO, even the top 8 of EVO had so many timeouts. I think the game's just a little too slow paced right now for it to be a good spectator game. And Vanguard on PC, of course, like come on, bro. Like that just turns people off. The fact that this game has the best netcode ever, but you can't actually play people from Europe without making a separate Europe account and then begging. I had to beg Riot for Riot points to get the new character, to get characters on my new account so I could play. Like, come on, bro. A couple other things I have. Fuses were great. I actually like the fuses, but the fuses didn't actually work out in practice because freestyle was like the best by far. So everyone just played freestyle. Even still, now that freestyle's nerfed, most people still play freestyle. Though I think it's in a lot better state now than it ever was. The control scheme, people complain. I didn't think it was that bad. You could have made it so you could either do manual or simple inputs like Tokon does. I think that's a much better solution. It's not that hard to do. And then dev communication, I think the devs had good open communication, which is cool, but I think it made them susceptible to Twitter influencers. If you guys know what I'm talking about, the devs listen to people too much on Twitter and shape the game. Honestly, I think most of the times when they listen to Twitter, usually result in a worse game. I'm not gonna lie. So anyways, here are my thoughts. I like 2xKO. I think it has some issues, many issues. Obviously the game's dying now, so whatever. Let's see how viral my tweet goes. I posted this 3 hours ago. It's already my most liked tweet. People are taking this way too serious, guys. I'm okay. I'm not stupid enough to just tie my entire life to 2xko. I'm sure you guys know that if you've been longtime viewers of the channel. And we're still on the up and up, trust. But yeah, I'll miss 2x. I'm not gonna lie. I'm still gonna play it. I'll probably still play the new DLC characters too. I bet they do some pretty cool stuff. I would say like, share, subscribe if you want to see more 2xko content. But rip.